If the same chaos keeps finding you, this might be the message that your soul is trying to send. We talk a lot about how our inner reality reflects our outer reality. And if our inner reality is really not cohesive, it is not talking to one another, it's chaotic in here, we're in our minds, we're in the past a lot, we're in the future, you get my drift, right? Then that is going to reflect out to in our outer reality chaos and upheaval and things of lower vibration that don't bring peace into our life, that don't bring calmness, that don't bring cohesiveness in, or even great manifestation. Instead, we are manifesting a world where there seems to be a lot of drama, a lot of pain, a lot of chaos, and we are sitting here sometimes and we can be victims of what is happening on the outside of us, not realizing that it truly starts within, right? And we are attracting, without even realizing it many times, more of it into our life. I know for me, sometimes I can still attract that into my life. If I don't practice being present, if I don't practice being in meditation or practicing my different shaman exercises, I have a lot more chaos come into my life because it's almost like these subconscious patterns, these validation from childhood, these really unresolved issues kind of creep back in a little bit, right? And before we know it or even conscious of it, it can come back in and kind of take over our life. And next thing you know, here you are gathered around the water cooler at work discussing somebody else, right? Discussing things about how so and so doesn't do their job right or doesn't come into work, and you get the validation from everybody else. Yes, they don't do that. Yeah, they suck. They never come to work. And I can admit to myself, and I'm going to be very vulnerable and honest here when I say that I've been caught back into that. And recently I was caught back into that because I'm doing many transitions in my life right now, and I'm moving into a life of more alignment. And with moving into a life with more alignment, more peace, more calmness, sometimes those old towers and those old moments and those parts of our ego are going to fall. And I can get dragged into that, right? Where I have every reason, and I'm leaving my job. I'm almost done. I have a few more weeks left because I wanted to honor the contract. And there is a certain person at my job who is fully taking advantage of the fact that I'm leaving, and they are not doing their work. They're no longer showing up to work. They are just fully taking advantage of the situation because, number one, they know I want to honor the contract. And number two, they kind of know my morals and ethics. And so they are doing that. Well, what I'm doing is I need validation. I need validation that what this person's doing is horrible. And so I was going around to everybody. See what they did. Look what they did to me. They suck, don't they? Like, and everybody's like, yeah, absolutely. I would be completely upset too. And you're like, yeah, they suck. They suck. And then you have, maybe I had like one person that was like, who cares? You're leaving. And when I tell you, when I didn't get that validation, I felt completely apart. I felt completely apart. I was pissed. I was mad. I was crying, and I threw a fit. Looking back, obviously, we've talked about this, how we can handle ourselves differently. But when we go into those unconscious patterns from childhood, we can kind of see that come in, right? And I'm like, I look back now and I'm not embarrassed because it is done. It's in the past. I don't identify with the past anymore. I can just tell you who I am right now in the present moment, right? And who I am is nobody. I just am. So when I tell you who I am in the present moment, we can't go back to who I am. But for the sake of the story, we can say that I saw the unconscious kind of patterning come in. I felt it from spirit. I felt it from God that I should really not engage in this anymore. And when I had this realization, it was just kind of like, yeah, you're right. Like, why am I giving this my energy? Why am I giving this my time? And I really need to go back in and get, and do better next time, right? Like, now I'm aware and I need to go into making it different, right? It's okay. We're human. We will, from time to time, go back into unconscious patterning. So if this is something like not the same situation, but you've gone through something similar where you're like, yeah, I know. And I, for some reason, dive deep into, this unconscious patterning because I want this validation because I didn't get it in childhood. It happens. But what we do want is we want to be able to then alchemize this in our body and become strong co-creators and say, okay, I went back into that pattern. It is what it is. Now it's time to move forward. And next time a pattern like that comes up, we recognize it instantly and we're able to really overcome that, right? And we have to then respond differently. Not only in our physical body using our voice, but energetically as well. We need to shift and we need to move through it, and we need to respond instead of react to the chaos that's kind of happening around us, because we are responsible for the chaos. Whether we want to admit it or not, we need to take some responsibility and say, you know what, I am responsible for creating that, right? Because honestly, in my personal story, I could let this go. Like, who cares? I'm leaving. And I feel really bad for the next person that kind of comes in, because who knows if that person's unconscious pattern is going to come in and disrupt them. And maybe they're going to handle it a lot differently than I did. I needed to get my emotions in check. I needed to get myself in check and take a moment to realize that this person's not worth it anymore. They are not worth my energy. They are not worth my time. I am worth it to me. And if I want to live in a life that is abundant, peaceful, and in alignment with what I want to do, I can no longer act this way. And, I can make all the excuses in the world. I can say, well, I'm an Aries, and that's just who I am. It's like, okay, well, it's not, you don't get to be completely ruled by your sign, okay? And you don't get to be completely ruled by the circumstances, because yes, many of us have these unhealed wounds. Many of us want the validation that comes along with it. And we want to we want people to be with us here, because we don't want to feel alone. And that comes with like the trauma of not being validated in your childhood, being gaslit, being manipulated in your life. And you're like, no, I want people to know I'm not crazy. And so other good practices to put into place is we're talking about being present. We're talking about meditation and breath work. We can also incorporate more grounding, especially now that it's nice out. We can continue to go outside and become grounded. And I've been doing that a lot lately. And that's truly helped to melt away a lot of what is kind of going on in regards to the chaos out here. And you could also do hobbies and passions that you love to bring you into more coherence of who you truly are. And when we start to do more and more of this, the outside world is really going to be reflected of us, of chaos, of upheaval. And we can come back to the coherence of oneness and calmness within ourselves. So I invite you, I kind of want you to dive deep in this a little bit more with me. Can you think of a time where you realized you were a magnet to the chaos out in the outside reality? And how did you kind of handle it? Did you react? Did you respond? Or, did you have that aha moment like I had, like, okay, I know I caused this, and how can I go about it differently this time? I would love to hear about that in the comments below. Let me know, your story of how you handled it. And so, my friends, if you found this video to be helpful, like the video if you're new or old. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.